Life is not simply a journey of survival, nor is it just a collection of struggles, achievements, and failures. At the very core of human existence lies a truth that transcends cultures, religions, and generations. The truth that we are not alone in this vast universe. Beyond our human strength and wisdom exists a greater power, a divine grace, often called God's favor. It is that invisible hand that gently lifts us when our knees are weak, that unseen light that breaks through our darkest night, and that whisper of hope that speaks even when the noise of life tries to silence it. When Dr. David Yonggi Cho declared that God's favor will lift you higher, he was pointing toward a principle that is written not only in the scriptures, but also engraved into the human heart. That God delights in raising people beyond the limits of their circumstances. Favor is not earned like wages, it is received like a gift. It is not the product of human calculation, but the overflow of divine generosity. And when it rests upon a life, it has the power to take the ordinary and make it extraordinary. We live in a world where so many people feel invisible, unnoticed, and left behind. Success often seems reserved for the powerful, the wealthy, or the well-connected. But God's favor is not bound by social status, financial background, or worldly position. History is full of examples of men and women who came from nothing and were lifted to greatness simply because God placed his hand upon them. The boy shepherd David was lifted to be king. The orphan Esther was lifted to be queen. The fisherman Peter was lifted to be a voice of truth. The truth is that when God's favor is on your life, no barrier is too strong, no obstacle too tall, and no enemy too great. God's favor does not mean the absence of struggle. In fact, many who walk in favor often find themselves in situations of deep challenge. But favor means that in the midst of difficulty, there is always a way forward. Joseph, sold in to slavery by his own brothers, betrayed and imprisoned unjustly, could have been forgotten in a dark Egyptian cell. Yet because God's favor rested on him, that same prison became the doorway to the palace. In one day, God lifted him from prisoner to prime minister. That is the power of favor. It accelerates destiny. What might take others decades, God can accomplish in a moment when his hand is upon you. The lifting that favor brings is not only about status or success. It is first and foremost about transformation of the heart. Favor lifts you higher in character, in wisdom, in peace, and in joy. There are people who have climbed ladders of power, but live empty lives because they lack inner favor. But when God lifts you, he does not only change your circumstances, he changes you. He teaches you humility in success, faith in trial, and compassion in influence. His lifting is not just external, it is internal, shaping you to be a vessel of light in a dark world. And yet, favor is needed for selfish gain. When God lifts you higher, it is not only to bless you, but to bless others through you. Think of a lamp raised high on a stand. It shines not for itself, but for the whole room. In the same way, when favor elevates you, it is so that your life might radiate hope, kindness, and truth to those around you. The blessing flows through you, not just to you. That is why the greatest lives are those who understand that being lifted higher is not about pride, but about purpose. But how do we walk in this favor? The answer is both simple and profound. Favor comes not by striving, but by aligning. It flows when our hearts are aligned with God's heart. It comes when we choose integrity over compromise, when we choose faith over fear, when we choose to walk in love rather than bitterness. Favor is not about manipulating heaven. It is about opening ourselves to be vessels through which heaven can work. It is not earned, but it can be nurtured by humility, gratitude, and faithfulness. Many times we mistake favor for luck. But luck is random. Favor is intentional. Luck is chance. Favor is divine choice. You may not have been born into privilege. You may not have a perfect record, but favor looks beyond human qualification and sees divine possibility. That is why some of the greatest stories in history belong to people whom society overlooked. God loves to take the unlikely and do the impossible. And so, if you feel small, if you feel unworthy, if you feel as though life has forgotten you, take courage. The same God who lifted a shepherd boy to be a king, the same God who lifted a prisoner to be a leader, is able to lift you. His favor is not bound by geography, not hindered by culture, not restrained by human judgment. It can reach you in the depths of obscurity and carry you to the heights of destiny. One of the most beautiful truths about God's favor is that it is not limited to the extraordinary moments of life. It is not only seen when miracles happen, when opportunities suddenly open, or when victories are won. Favor also works quietly, in the background of our daily existence, often unseen and unnoticed. It is in the strength you feel when you should be weak. It is in the peace that surrounds you in the middle of chaos. It is in the gentle encouragement that whispers to your heart, keep going, your story is not over yet. Many people expect favor to always be loud, dramatic, and visible to everyone. Yet some of the greatest lifting happens in silence. Think of a seed buried underground. For weeks, no one notices its struggle. No one applauds its growth. Yet beneath the soil, it is breaking, pushing, and stretching, until finally it pierces the surface and begins to rise. In the same way, God's favor is often working in seasons when you feel hidden. Do not mistake hiddenness for abandonment. Sometimes God hides you so He can prepare you. And when the time is right, favor will lift you into the open for all to see. Another truth about favor is that it does not require perfection. So many people disqualify themselves, saying, "And I have made too many mistakes," or "And I do not deserve God's lifting." But favor is never about deserving. If it were, no one could receive it, because all of humanity carries flaws and failures. Favor is about God choosing to use imperfect vessels to reveal His perfect goodness. Think of Moses, who doubted his own speech. Think of Jonah, who tried to run away. Think of Peter, who denied even knowing his master. Yet, all of them were lifted and used because God's favor rested upon them. Your past cannot cancel the future that God has prepared for you. Favor also redefines success. The world measures success by wealth, fame, and power. But true favor measures success by faithfulness, by peace, by love, and by impact on others. You can be wealthy and yet empty. You can be famous and yet lonely. You can be powerful and yet restless. But when God lifts you higher, He fills your life with meaning. Success without favor is like a house without a foundation. It looks impressive, but his entire family was saved from famine. When Esther was lifted to be queen, an entire people found deliverance. Favor is never meant to end with you. It is meant to overflow through you. There is also a responsibility that comes with favor. To be lifted higher means to live higher. To walk in favor means to walk in integrity, humility, and faithfulness. The higher you rise, the more people are watching. Your words, actions, and decisions carry weight. That is why humility is so essential. Favor without humility can turn into pride, and pride can destroy what favor builds. But when you remain humble, recognizing that every blessing is a gift, then you remain a channel through which God can continue to lift you higher. Humility also allows us to celebrate the favor on others. Too often, people fall into comparison, asking, "Why is he lifted and not me? Why is she blessed and not me?" But favor is not a competition, it is a calling. Each life carries a unique story. and the lifting of one does not threaten the lifting of another. In fact, celebrating the favor of others opens the door for more favor in your own life. Envy closes the heart, gratitude opens it. One of the greatest enemies of favor is fear. Fear whispers, what if I fail? What if I am not enough? What if people reject me? But favor answers, if God is for you, who can be against you? Fear focuses on limitations, but favor focuses on possibilities. Fear sees giants, but favor sees promised land. Fear paralyzes, but favor propels. To walk in favor means to walk in courage, believing that God can do what you cannot. And perhaps the greatest expression of favor is hope. In a world where despair is often louder than joy, where wars, poverty, and injustice seem to dominate the headlines, favor reminds us that the story is not over. Favor says that light still shines in darkness, that love still triumphs over hate, and that faith is still stronger than fear. Favor lifts us higher, not only for our personal journey, but to be carriers of hope for a broken world. So let this truth sink deep into your heart. You are not forgotten, you are not abandoned, and you are not without help. God's favor is able to lift you from where you are to where you are meant to be. You may feel hidden, but you are being prepared. You may feel weak, but strength is being renewed. You may feel small, but you are being positioned for something greater. Hold on, because the same hand that shaped the stars holds your destiny, and His favor will lift you higher. When we think about favor, we must also think about timing. Many people want the lifting of God's favor to happen instantly. We want promotion today, breakthrough tomorrow, and success overnight. But God's favor is not bound by our impatience. It moves according to divine timing. Just as a seed cannot become a tree in one day, our lives cannot reach their full potential without a process. Favor sometimes holds us in a season of waiting, not because God has forgotten us, but because He is preparing us for what is coming. The story of Joseph is a perfect example. When he received his dream, he was just a teenager. The vision was clear, but the fulfillment was distant. Between the dream and the palace came years of slavery, betrayal, false accusation, and prison. From the outside, it looked like failure. But in reality, it was formation. Every trial was shaping Joseph's character, teaching him wisdom, and preparing him for leadership. By the time he was lifted, he was not just a man of vision, he was a man of integrity, patience, and faith. Favor does not only give us a destination, it gives us preparation. Waiting seasons are difficult because they test our faith. But waiting is never wasted when God's favor is upon your life. Sometimes the doors remain closed, not because you are unworthy, but because the timing is unready. If a door opens too early, the blessing may break you instead of build you. But when it opens at the right time, it will not only lift you but sustain you. That is why patience is not weakness. It is strength wrapped in trust. Another aspect of favor is protection. Many times we think favor only shows itself when opportunities come.